Senator Sanders earlier this evening said he's in favor of felons being able to vote even while serving their prison terms. He was asked specifically about people like the Boston Marathon bomber, people convicted of sexual assault, rape and other things, pedophiles. He said the right to vote is inherent to our democracy, yes, even for terrible people. Senator Kamala Harris just said we should have that conversation. She didn't really answer one way or another. What do you think? Should people convicted of sexual assault, of the Boston Marathon bomber, should they be able to vote?
While incarcerated?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. I do believe that when you are out, when you have served your sentence, then part of being restored to society is that you are part of the political life of this nation again. And one of the things that needs to be restored is your right to vote. As you know, some states and communities do it, some don't. I think we'd be a better country if everybody did it. And frankly, I think the motivations for preventing that kind of reenfranchisement in some cases have to do with one side of the aisle noticing that they politically benefit from that, and that's got some racial layers too. So that's one of many reasons that I believe that reenfranchisement upon release is important. But part of the punishment when you're convicted of a crime and you're incarcerated is you lose certain rights, you lose your freedom. And I think during that period, it does not make sense to have an exception for the right to vote.
Look, I guess on one level, I get it. I get why some politicians, including people who approach things like Pete Buttigieg, would say that. He got applause. And why not? In America, like, we approach prison and the purpose of prison differently than in a lot of other countries, like countries in Europe and stuff like that. We have been trained to think of these people, even those who have not committed violent offenses and all that, as fundamentally bad people. And so, yeah, speaking out and saying that there should be more, more penalties, more restrictions, all of that is gonna be popular with a lot of people. I get it. I don't think that it's morally right. I don't think that it's wise necessarily. And I do think that it sucks that when he makes the case that he just did, when Tucker Carlson was attacking the ballot measure in Florida the last time around, nobody feels the need to actually explain why, philosophically, they should not be able to vote. And saying when you go to prison there are certain restrictions is not an explanation. That's an avenue to future cruelty, I guess. Okay, when you go to prison, I think everyone in prison should be blindfolded. And if you think that's cruel, well, when you go to prison, there are certain restrictions. I think they should have to walk around on their knees. Why not? They're in prison, they're bad people. I should have to explain why. Why should they be blindfolded? Why shouldn't they be able to vote? I know it's silly. I go to extremes in jokes and sometimes, but explain why. What are you worried will happen if they are able to vote? What are they gonna vote for? Which candidate is gonna get into office on the back of felons that you are so worried about, that you are willing to restrict everyone else in prison who is not a violent offender, who is not a murderer, who is not a rapist from voting? And again, the slippery slope that I talked about with Bernie Sanders, like, I do not want to be on that side of this argument. I don't want to be deciding that certain groups of people cannot be trusted with the vote, because there are a lot of people in America who don't want that to stop with people currently serving prison terms. There's a lot of people who don't want, when you get out of prison, to be able to vote. There's like, if it's a trust thing, okay, people with bad credit, can we really trust them to be voting on economic policies or choosing people who are gonna determine the future of the economy? People who, like people with toxic social media histories, can we really trust them to choose the right type of person? Like, okay, maybe that's a little bit harder to imagine, but there are people who want to imagine that, who want to move us in that direction. And that is why we have to be as vigorous and passionate in our defense of democratic rights as those who seek to restrict those rights. And not have this like, I don't really want to offend anyone. I just want to have it kind of easy, like, nah, felons, maybe, nah, not the vote. That's too much, maybe when they get out. That sort of road, when that's one side and the other side is we want to restrict as much voting as possible, what you get is restrictions, not expansions. And that is why I hate that answer so much. Thank you very much for watching this clip from The Damage Report. If you liked it, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and ring the bell on YouTube to get notifications of our new videos. And of course, you can catch the full Damage Report live every weekday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific on TYT Network on YouTube TV.